All right, guys, welcome back. Everything is working. I just double checked it all. So, anyways, okay. So, so, all right. The last micro lecture that we just discussed, we were actually talking about Aristotle's three proofs on the basic level, right? And then we got a little bit into like ethos, right? Start filling out what it means to have like competence and character and credibility and all that, which we already went over in speaker's credibility. And I believe, let me double check week 6. So keep in mind to review all of the micro lectures that you possibly can for the final. So everyone has like a decent idea of what might be on the final. Remember, it is actually cumulative, so it will have questions from the midterm, micro lectures, maybe stuff that we covered in class, maybe stuff that we didn't cover in class, stuff out of your book. I don't know. Who knows? We'll see. In any case, let's get back into it. Okay, so we can just finish off this week. I feel like as it gets darker, I get more tired and I'm old. So yeah, I'm a grandpa now. I'm not. Please don't forget that. Anyways, all right. So I'm gonna share my screen. All right. So picking up where we left off, let's talk about logos. Okay, so what is logos? And logos is defined in your book as um, as the name used by Aristotle for the logical appeal of the speaker. This has two major elements, okay? And those major elements are evidence and reasoning. And we kind of already talked about evidence a little bit, but we're going to go into more evidence right now. And we already talked about reasoning also a little bit as well. Um, and keep in mind when we talk about ethics, we're talking about like ethical things and things like that, right? And then when we talked about using graphs and our visual aids, also how we talked about Jesus, I hate this seasonal change. Anyways, there are a couple different times that we have actually talked about this, particularly in speakers' credibility, right? When we're talking about having like credibility and having that competence and character and be able to like provide that evidence, right? So that's like when they have credibility before they begin speaking, while they're speaking, and after they're speaking. All of that kind of has to deal with a little bit of persuasion, which deals with Aristotle's three proofs. Okay, so kind of getting into more detail with the evidence portion, we can see that evidence is defined in your book as supporting materials used to prove or disprove something, right? And so what does this mean, right? So if you're going to give a persuasive speech about how um, I don't want to pick anything crazy, but let's say how abortion rights, right? Let's say I want to disprove that women should have abortion rights. That's not my real opinion. I'm just saying, like, just as an example. I want to disprove that women should have abortion rights. So, like, I would say, like, my evidence would be like, well, women aren't really up for the task for like having an abortion because like if she has an abortion, she could bleed out and die, right? So that means that like she's physically not fit enough to be able to have an abortion. Again, just as an example, that is not my real thought. And just saying like you can either use evidence to disprove abortion rights or prove that women should have abortion rights, right? So it can go either way, right? But just to be like absolutely clear, I have no opinion on like women's rights. Like I don't have a vagina and I'm not a woman, so I don't put my 2 cents into it. That's your body. You do as you see fit. And for me, I'm gonna sit back. So sorry. But in any case, off of that, using the evidence, right? The evidence, like in the example that I gave, like saying that women shouldn't have the right to have an abortion, right? Using that evidence that I would gather, saying that they're not physically fit enough to be able to have an abortion because they might bleed out and die, that is my reasoning that they might bleed out and die, right? I'm using, or the reasoning, reasoning is defined in your book as the process of drawing a conclusion based on the evidence, right? So based on my evidence saying that like, oh, well, 25% of women actually bleed out and die when they have an abortion, right? So that is my evidence saying that women should never have an abortion and they should not have abortion rights because the reasoning of it is using the evidence is that they bleed out and die. Does that make sense? So if I need to clarify that, put that like, send me an email or something like that, or bring it up in class and I can clarify it a little bit more. But essentially what Logos does, it appeals to the logical sensibility of your audience, right? So like logical sensibility, meaning like I have this proof And by this proof, I can tell you a conclusion that is more than likely to happen, right? And that is my reasoning, right? So I take Totoro, right? My little Totoro. And if I lit him on fire, the evidence would prove that Totoro would be like a charred mess, right? And I would no longer have Totoro. And my reasoning or my conclusion would be lighting Totoro on fire kills him, right? Because although he's imaginary, he's still a stuffed animal right here. But lighting him on fire would actually kill him. So my evidence is a charred Totoro and a dead figure, if that makes any sense. Anyways, let's continue. Okay, so for the last proof, we're gonna go over pathos, right? So what is pathos? And pathos is probably my favorite one, and it's probably like the most easiest one to remember, because pathos has to deal with the emotional appeal of a person or your audience, right? But in your book, it's defined as the name used by Aristotle for what modern students of communication refer to as an emotional appeal. And this emotional appeal can be essentially anything. Hold on, guys, 1 second. Sorry, I left my door open and my family is loud. So in any case, but yes, it is the emotional appeal. Like, how are you going to grab someone's attention, right? How are you going to say, well, if you don't do this, thousands of babies will not have homes because their moms had died while giving while getting an abortion, or or women will constantly die if they feel that abortion is their only form of contraception. Again, I don't believe that. I'm just using my example. I cannot reiterate that enough. I'm sorry. But in any case, it is the way in which we use an appeal to the emotion, right? So the appeal to the emotion would be any type of figure. Like my virtual background, it almost seems like a religious like ideology, right? But really it's a video game, right? But the appeal of it is that it looks so like sacramental with like the roses and the clouds, and he's gold and he has like a halo. But you know, using these types of like visual aids, even like pathos can be used in visual aids, but it also can be used in statements as well. Like saying, back to the abortion example, but saying like, I have a sister and I don't want her to die because she has to have an abortion. Therefore, women should not have abortion rights. Does that make, I hope that makes sense, right? Like I'm appealing using my own evidence as my, like with my sister, and not wanting her to die based on the evidence I have like shown that 25% of women actually die by having an abortion. And so because I have a sister, I'd say I don't want my sister to die because she had an abortion. Therefore, I think no woman should have an abortion right. If that makes any sense, it just kind of like brings it back home, right? And that's the whole thing with pathos, is that you're trying to bring in that emotional appeal to your audience, that they actually felt like scared or anxiety or sad or any type of emotion that you can invoke in them so that they could believe what you're trying to tell them a little bit better. All right, so to wrap this all up for you guys, so why do these even matter, right? Why does knowing Aristotle's three proof matter? This matters because using the three proofs of ethos, logos, and pathos, we can give context to the audience that we're trying to persuade, right? We're able to give like our credibility as speakers, people who know the knowledge, people who have shown the character that we actually have the best interest for the audience that we're talking to. We can show and prove our evidence, right? We display our evidence through visual aids like this one, and we're able to draw conclusions based on those visual aids. And we use throughout our speech an emotional appeal to show that, hey, this is really happening. This is what we need to do, right? And we're going to go over that next week. It's called a call to action, but don't worry, there's like a whole system to that. But in any case, I just want you guys to focus on this, that using Aristotle's three proofs allows us to have context in how and who we're trying to persuade, okay? And this is done on many levels. especially in communication and understanding persuasion, but this is also done on levels of political and social appeals as well. As I used with the abortion rights example, again, don't really have an opinion, but with the abortion rights example, that's a social appeal to people of the public, or the public in general, right? And they also use this in like a political factor. And we saw this with the election, right? Like Donald Trump or Joe Biden, they were trying to use these ways of persuasion to target individuals at home to be like, listen, this is what's happening and this is how we fix it. So that is going to be the end of our slides. I'm going to stop sharing the screen. This one ran a little bit long, but I did it because I only really wanted you guys to have two. So please answer the questions that I have posed. And you guys should have already done that already. I don't even know why I'm reiterating that. But in any case, you guys should have already finished. And so that is going to be it for this week. It's going to be short and sweet and to the point. If we have any questions, please bring this up during office hours or lecture of next week, or send me an email as always. But yeah, I think we're going to be done for this week. So sorry, guys, again, but had a short and sweet on this one. All right. Well, all right. Well, you guys have a good weekend, and I will see you in class. Bye.